Welcome to Globe Watch. I am Charles Ebune. Chaos is a Greek word, and there is no better time in history than today to describe the situation in the country of late Alexander the Great. If you are in Greece today, you can only withdraw 60 euros per day, no matter how complex and complicated your situation can be. For almost 2 weeks now, the country's banks have been closed and the nation has defaulted with an escalating debt amounting to 340 billion euros, estimated at 180% of the country's GDP. As I speak to you tonight, all the 28 European Union leaders are meeting in the European capital, Brussels, to work out a strategy that will definitely keep Greece in the Eurozone and the European Union, or kick the country out of the Eurozone and subsequently out of the European Union. My guest today has been an advisor to top German politicians, and he is a senior researcher and advisor at the Berlin-based Global Cooperation Council. How did we arrive at this chaotic situation? And what next for Greece? Kennedy Tumenta, welcome to Globe Watch.
Thank you very much.
March 12, 1947, President Harry S. Truman enters the U.S. Congress and tells them that there is need to help Greece and keep it afloat after the British said that they were unable to sustain Greece, and Congress approved a $400 billion package to rescue Greece. Barack Obama has failed Greece today.
Well, I don't think so. I don't think that Barack Obama has failed Greece today. I think Barack Obama, behind the scenes, met with Angela Merkel and other European leaders and encourages them that we need to keep Greece in the European Union. I think that Greece receives a lot of support from the United States, especially in military programs. I think the United States is the leading country that finances the Greece economy, mostly in the military mind, followed by Germany.
You are very much aware that it is the U.S. plan to keep Greece safe for democracy in 1947 that led to the 17.5 billion US dollar Marshall Plan, which subsequently led to the establishment of NATO in 1949. But just listen to what Barack Obama says concerning the current Greek saga. In layman's terms, for the American people, this is not something that we believe will have a major shock to the system. He has a kind of wayward attitude towards the turmoil in Greece.
I think I would differ with him in these terms, because I think if things move to the worst, I think there is no single economy in the world that will not be affected by this turmoil. I mean, having a volatile euro, having investors pulling out of Greece, I think security issues, if Greece gets out of euro, then the United States should be very careful, because Greece needs to look at its neighboring partners, and Russia is really waiting for that opportunity.
The chaos which are plaguing Greece today emerged from the fact that one local bank in the United States of America collapsed. The Lehman Brothers, Goldman Sachs, and others, Fannie Mae and Fannie Mac, the mortgage giants, crashed. Why is it that since 2008, Greece has been so vulnerable to financial instability?
I think since 2008, it's not only Greece. The global economy is in a great turmoil. I think the European Union is still struggling to find out the best model to be able to sustain the member countries.
But the best example of that disgraceful situation is Greece. Why?
No, I don't think the best disgrace is Greece. But Greece's problem today was not created by only the 2008 financial crisis from Lehman Brothers. I mean, you have a lot of governance issue that existed before. If you look at the origin of Greek following a socialist communist system, they had systems that supported a lot of pension. They had systems that rewarded, I could call it rewarded, not the productive sector. They had a big government, they had a very big government. On the other hand, they were not able to collect the appropriate number of tax compared to the number of consumption that they had in Greek.
What I want to know from you, just break it to my audience in concrete, simple, ordinary language. When it say a country is defaulted, what does that mean?
It means that the government or the country is not able to meet its obligations. It's very simple. In ordinary language, you know, if your country borrowed money and pledges to pay back this money, and at a certain point of time, it's not even capable of paying back this money. And looking at it, you look at the balance of payment, money that they get, and the money that they consume. And looking at it in a very long term, they are not capable of meeting their obligations. So you find it in this situation, those who lent money to them, they are very risky. They say the Greek economy is very risky, so I will be very afraid to lend money to somebody when I do not have the possibility to recover the money. So the default, the budget deficit is not a big problem, because I don't think there are countries in this world without budget deficit, meaning that they are not capable of meeting their consumption, their national consumption. But if you look at it at a long term, a systematic erosion of this inability to meet. I think the percentage today for Greek is about 140 something.
180.
180. I mean, it's moved. It was 110 in 110 in 2010, going up, and today we have 180. It means that it is a very dangerous thing for the whole global economy, and for the survival of the European Union.
The Greece economy is today, the debt stands at $340 billion. That is, should be 180% of the country's GDP. Unemployment stands at about 36%, the worst you can imagine on earth. And this is not a country which has been under a sanctions regime. This is not Zimbabwe's Mugabe. This is not Ahmadinejad's Iran. This is not Kim Jong-un's North Korea. How on earth will a European country in the 21st century run out of cash?
Exactly. If you look at the origin of this crisis, it is very difficult to have investment-backed economy.
Because even in Zimbabwe, even in North Korea, even in Iran, we have not had these systems under heavy sanctions collapsing. But this is a country which is not under any embargo. But it cannot survive. It is shocking, right?
It's very, very shocking. But it means that, countries need to get their books right. It does not, we had other countries that rewind. We have Ireland. The Irish government decided to rewind and restart again. But there are some macroeconomics fundamentals that you have to put your house in order.
Such as?
Such as you need to be able to have an appropriate taxation system, making sure that you can get money. You need to invest in education and the productive economy. You need to have a labor force that are able to work and that are very creative. Unfortunately, if you look at Greek, most of the volatile labor force, I mean, they have a very youthful populations. They are migrating out of Greek. And you have a very old, aging population that are staying in Greek, and they are going on retirement. So you see, there is no productive economy coming up, but you have the pensions going up, and that is where the crisis is actually moving. Because any government that gets into Greek and asks that we need to cut the pensions, no, those are the majority of people within the country, and they will always vote against. They are very, very unpopular. Wow. So I think looking at the issue with Greek is, do we have a possibility of raising income beyond taxing? Because taxation is not always the best. You need to create opportunities for people to redistribute wealth.
Okay, this mess has been going on for roughly 5 years now. All the necessary therapies have been administered to Greece. The European Union has injected billions and billions of dollars and euros. There has been a European financial stability mechanism. There has been the EFSC to stabilize Greece. We have moved from one governance to another, from George Papandreou to Antonis Samaras to now Alexis Tsipras. All these governmental, economic, and structural reforms have taken place, yet the results are not coming. This is a country known as the historic center of intellectuals across the world. What is wrong?
A lot of things happen. You know, when Greek organized...
Do they need a new Thales?
Well, we'll
Do
get
they
to
need
that.
a new Plato?
No,
Do they need a new Alexander the Great?
You see, even the great philosophers appealed on morality and self-interest. You know, when during the Olympics that took place in Greece, it was a fabulous event. But unfortunately, a lot of that particular event indebted the Greek economy. That's the first part. That's something that we tried during this period. People try to forget. And the second part of it is that most of the money that has been pumped in, went to service some of the debt that they had. So most of this money was not even used to develop the Greek economy. So there were creditors that wanted their money back, and Greek was already defaulting at other angles. So when this money came, some of these creditors collected their money and first of all went out of it because they did not really see a productive.
So there has been a massive capital flow of the country.
Yes, there have been capital inflow and outflow. So a lot of investors that had their money first of all went out.
Before we came on air, the Greek Prime Minister just submitted a series of reforms to balance the books, as you put it, and it's exactly what the people said no in a referendum: a massive rise in taxation, especially corporate and VTA. There will be taxing of restaurants and even the Greek ports, which were not taxed in the while, will be placed on the taxation list now. Will European leaders meeting this Sunday finally say this is what we were looking for?
I think partially, because it's very important to see what Alexander Tsipras is struggling to do. Not so. He's struggling to tax the untaxed part of the Greek economy. He calls it, I want to tax the oligarchy. We need wealth redistribution. Those who have income, highly income, we need to tax them.
And claims to make about 12 billion euros in the next 3 years.
It's very important, but the question is that do they have alternatives to move out of the country? That's another issue. Taxing within the European Union is fine. But if people discover that they can move out of the European Union and still do the same business, because as you know, the European Union goes on the policy of free movement of goods, free movement of persons, free movement of services, and free movement of capital, they can still move out. So I think the European economists, they will look at it, if it is convincing, and if they can trust it, then they will do it. But I think trust is a fundamental element in this during this negotiation.
Well, trust is a fundamental element. The president of the European Union Council, Donald Tusk, says, quote, concrete and realistic proposals of reforms from Athens are necessary, for it will, quote, have to be matched by an equally realistic proposal on debt sustainability from the creditors. Only then we will have a win-win situation. Should there be a debt relief on the side of Greece creditors?
Yeah, debt reliefs are very good. But it's also a dangerous mechanism because once I give a debt relief, it means the creditors themselves accept a certain loss, a fundamental loss. But now what happens to the Greek economy in the future? Future creditors will think twice. If, to a certain degree, Greek is not capable of repaying my money in the future, I will still be asked to give debt release because the vote of no was a victory, to the current government. But it's a dangerous signal to creditors because they think we have to send money to finance the current expenditure for the government's expenditures and other development projects. But when the government feels in the future, I think if you ask them, pay back my money, get back my money, I need my money, the government can just say, please, hold on. let me go back to my people, and nobody will accept that they should cut his current living standards.
You're just talking of creditors, a word we have overused in this discussion. There are basically three of them, all called the Troika: the European Central Bank, the International Monetary Fund, and the Eurozone member countries. But the key player in all this episode is Germany. Just listen to what Angela Merkel just said. We must not forget that the Greek people are suffering at the moment. This is a lady who has been just so hard, saying that writing off the debt or a haircut will not be possible. But the German finance minister, Wolfgang Schäuble, says that there cannot be a haircut because it will infringe the system of the European Union. Greece has made fundamental sacrifices. Now, if there is no write-off of Greece's debt, does that mean that Greece will be leaving the European Union if there is a failure this Sunday evening to come to a compromise?
Yes, if you look at the two positions of Angela Merkel and Schäuble, you see something. On the one hand, Angela Merkel is appealing for great solidarity with the Greek people. That is the moral aspect of it. They have been suffering, we need to give them an opportunities and so on. Schäuble is also arguing on the economic consequences of such a decision. What does that mean? Okay, Greece is not the only country on the list. We have Portugal, we have Spain, we have Italy. They are also on the list. Spain is actually waiting to see what will happen. Yeah? Spain is the next. So now if the European Union at one hand say, okay, let's wipe out the debt, what will happen? The other countries that are struggling to carry out austerity measures and so on to make sure they bring back the economy to a stable condition, they will not think, oh, wow, if they can do it to Greece, then they should be able to do it to us.
You lecture ethics in management and ethics in business and governance. How do you match economic interest and morality in governance?
So this is where,
if we have to apply it to the Greek case, which is the case study.
You see, we need to allow Greece in the European Union. There is no other options. Greece has to be there. It's a moral obligation because the European Constitution, the European Union is founded on it's a solidarity union. But on the other hand, solidarity doesn't mean supporting the weak and supporting the weak. Solidarity means helping the Greek economy, helping the other partners to be able to be productive themselves. So that is where the problem lies. You know, in this issue, now it is about giving money to Greek, getting the economy stance, and then helping them to be self-independent. And that is exactly where the problem comes. The Greek people have said that they have been treated with no dignity. They have been given money.
Yeah, because Alexis Tsipras says that Germany in particular wants to humiliate him or the Greek people, and you know that the Greek government has argued that Germany owes her about $278 billion euros on the issue of reparations during World War II. And you say, please, if you give back our money, we're going to solve this problem somehow. But the outgone German ambassador to Cameroon told me that that money will never be given again because the problem has been solved. Everybody says we should keep Greece in the European Union, but how do you do that when there are no compromises from the other end?
No, I mean, we will find they are going to get a compromise. The issue here is that there is a lot of sentiment, and that is exactly the issue between morality and self-interest. Somehow you want somebody to help you, not so? And on the other hand, you want to dictate how he has to help you. So here, I think that every moral actions or appeal which we have to deal it in real life situation. Not so? I mean, we can say that, well, it is the human and dignity of Greek people to live and be part of the European Union. But the reality is there are some conditions that makes them to stay, and there are some conditions that makes them not to be member. Otherwise, Cameroon and other countries will say, we want to be part of the European Union.
Sure. Top economists in the transatlantic rim, including Jeffrey Sachs, have written that there should be somehow a haircut for Greece. But you know, this debate has been going on. François Hollande, Angela Merkel, Alexis Tsipras, all of them believe in keeping Greece in the European Union. But when you have this top of economist writing such an article, and the commander-in-chief and the deputy commander-in-chief of the European Union, I'm talking of Angela Merkel and Francois Hollande, are not ready to provide a kind of heavily indebted poor countries initiative for Greece, this Sunday will simply be another fiasco. And by Monday, Greece will be redefining a strategy of saying bye-bye to the Eurozone first, and secondly to the European Union.
Yes. Jeffrey Sachs proposes that they should stay in, but another Nobel Prize winner, Paul Krugman, says Greece will be better off out of the European Union.
The American.
Yes. And what he says is that when he gets out of the European Union, they will devalue their currency, and then they will now boost their export. So they will be able to export more and import less. And they now will have a positive balance of...
On what goods would Greece be counting?
Well, the Greek economy...
What is the tissue of the Greek economy that they can say that, okay, if we quit, we are going to devalue, and these are the kind of goods that we are going to get the money to balance the books?
Yeah, well, I think Greek has some appropriate export that they do. But, they have oil and other products that they do export. But I think at this point, there are other macroeconomic advantages that they are going to get. The economy will be attractive, but will they attract the banks to give them the money? That is another question. But on the other hand, what you actually said is true. We are worried. Because nobody, Francois Hollande and Merkel, they are also politicians. And they are also looking at the local sentiment, because you understand in France they also have difficulties. It will be fine for them not to, for the French citizens to have better living conditions. They don't have harsh measures. The pensions age, should not be extended so much. It should be reduced to about 55, and then they can enjoy their pensions. In Germany, they have the same issue. The pension age is every time they are discussing about pensions, about pension age, so that people can work and stay and work within the economy. So on the other hand, if Angela Merkel make concessions and say we are backing the Greek economy so that they can become an oasis of freedom and enjoyment life, not so. So they are also going to have the policy. So it's not easy for Francois Hollande, and it's not easy for Merkel.
Let's just look at the geopolitical fallout of such a union. Wolfgang Ischinger, who is a top official in Germany, says, quote, "If Greece leaves, I will bet you that in Moscow, this will be seen as a confirmation of the Russian theory that the European Union is in decline and about to fall like the Soviet Union." Do you have the impression that the European Union and the Eurozone in particular is an economic and political union house of cards?
Well, I think the Greek economy benefited a lot. I think it's left to the Greek citizens to actually weigh out the advantages of staying and the advantages of getting out. Of course, Moscow is bearing a lot of sanctions at the moment. Getting sanctions from the European Union, getting sanctions from the international community, and a weak European Union. Come on, it's good for Moscow, theoretically. But in the real sense, it's not really good, because a stronger European Union opens a bigger market for Russia, for Russian products.
The new proposals from Alexis Tsipras entails reducing budget spending at least 300 million euros. What are the other areas of the Greek economy where we should have massive cuts to get out of this nonsense?
You see, reducing government spending is one thing, but where do you reduce it? Are you cutting educational spending? Are you cutting health spending? Are you cutting military spending? So you have to look at it. Where should we reduce it? Are you cutting leisure spending? How many numbers of parks? What parks are there? Monument that we are now putting a lot of money. How do we invest in the touristic industry and so on? So I think the issue is about productive investment versus unproductive investment.
Final thought, Greece is a center, willy-nilly, of democracy, the birthplace of democracy, and from where the best of intellectuals we have had come. Today, she needs to borrow mathematicians to, well, you know the person who, Archimedes and others, they are Greek people who founded all the necessary mathematical theories of solving economic calculus and whatsoever. But today she needs foreigners to do that, and probably you will be one of them. What will be the best way out for Greece?
Is that he has to explain to his people that solidarity means investing in the conditions that will make us be sustainable in the long run for us, our creditors, our partners, so that we can enjoy the beautiful heritage that our forefather gave to us.
Kennedy Tumenta from Germany-based Global Cooperation Council. I'm afraid we have to end here. Thank you very much for being guest on Globe Watch.
It's my pleasure. Thank you.